our weekly Grow Global Mastermind. Who's ready to make some money, people? I know, I am. I'm like, show me how to make the money, and I'm telling you
Jim's
guys,
always hyped up.
I am, right? Believe it or not, I didn't mean to tell everything, but I don't know how. The doctor's like, I think you have low energy. I'm like, have you talked to me? Do you know who I am? She's like, you have high or low energy. And like, I'm just exhausted. Just haven't talked to you today, but normally I'm pretty high energy. So anyway, guys, if you're ready to make a big impact today, we have the panel for you guys. The panel that I'm like sitting here for freaking out because Donnie Morrow, this guy he coaches the coaches, okay? He's still like over 100 million, like 150 million last year, but he will give you all the information. But we have Donnie Morrow, and then the other two mega agents is Michael Donnie. He'll tell you he's crushing it in any market, this market, any market. And we have Jordan Ray. He's like, what market? I'm crushing it out here. What are you guys doing? He'll make you feel like you haven't done much at all. Okay. So let's no further ado. I would like for you to share a little bit about your background and and just kind of give the nuggets to these hungry. So by giving some emoji, who's hungry in here beside me? I know. Let me see if I can give my own emoji here. Like I am hungry for some really good nuggets that Donnie, Michael, there you go, and Jordan. Yeah, thank you guys. That's what I want to do. So welcome to the
Well,
world.
we've had a lot of people talk about pricing strategy lately, and that's why we're doing this talk because a lot of people we're seeing a lot more inventory coming on the market, and the one thing we hear over and over and over it is the sellers are overpricing their homes and they're sitting on the market. I keep hearing that over and over. So we wanted to invite some key players who are doing it big here in real estate and kind of share what their strategies are, what they're seeing in their markets, what tactics they're using to get people to get their homes sold.
So let's see who want to start first.
Well, one thing that I'm seeing right now is actually pretty funny. That's pretty common right now is folks who bought a house a couple years ago and they want to try to sell it for what they paid for it, and that doesn't even work. And so it's just crazy. And so I'm constantly having this conversation with people. Actually, I had a for sale by owner call me yesterday that I have been prospecting to like crazy. He's like, "Hey, we just called you because you've been sending us videos and text messages and emails, and we wanted to finally hear what you had to say." I was like, "Thank you." Anyways, we got on the phone, and when we actually did start speaking, found out they had their house listed for sale by owner for exactly what they paid for it. And I started looking at comps in their neighborhood, and it was about 100K less than that. And it's pretty wild. So,
And what market are you in, Jordan?
Memphis,
Tennessee.
Yep.
Wow. That's like one of the sellers. They can keep going, run into that. And the great agents like you be able to educate them and tell them like, that's not the same market, right? That's awesome.
Exactly. It's crazy, and a lot of, at least in our market, I don't know about other places, but in a lot of our home prices that increased back in 2022 or so was due to like large hedge fund companies that were buying up single family homes. And they
Yes.
were paying 50K over asking, 60K over asking. And that's the kind of sellers that we're seeing right now, because they only know that market. And then they come into this market thinking, well, why am I not getting 60K over asking? And rude awakening, so.
Wow. So Michael, what market are you out of? Tell the amazing realtors here, what have you been doing and where are you from?
Hey guys, I am in the Central Ohio market, and I am. Are you guys able to see me right now?
Yep.
Yes.
See you well, hear you well.
All right, perfect. So yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of the things that these guys are talking about as well. So excited to kind of dive in and share a little bit about what I'm doing and how it's working, what's not, and we can go from there. But representing Ohio here. Go Buckeyes, OH.
Are you seeing more inventory come on the market there?
Yeah, we are. We're getting some, a little bit of uptick in inventory. it's slightly pushing towards a little bit more of a buyer's market. It's still really a strong market in general. Inventory is still low in general, but um, a lot more houses sitting on the market a little bit longer. A lot of them, you can tell they're being overpriced to start with, and it's evidenced by uh, the price adjustments that are happening. But the ones that are priced right are still moving quickly, which is part of the strategy in the the game plan when you're sitting down with a seller to really nail that market value, especially based on their timing. But most people want to sell quickly; they don't want to mess around. And when you can point to other houses that are sitting there and they've taken a 10, 20, 30, 50 plus $1,000 price adjustment over the first couple weeks, first month, they want to know what's going on, and they're like, wait, because they don't want to, they don't want to start there, and then the expectation is they're going to be making X amount on their net, and then all of a sudden it's 20, 30, 40, 50K less, and it's a disaster for everyone. And us as the realtor, if we don't frame it right and set their expectation, we're the target, we're the reason why that happened.
Right, because there's a cost for sitting on the market long term, and not just reducing the price. It's the value of the home going down. There's the monthly payments and maintenance. A lot of things can cost money the longer the home sits on the market.
Absolutely.
Also,
And
they get a stigma by sitting on the market too long.
Absolutely, 100%. And then everybody that calls wants to know what's wrong with the house. And you're like, it's not the house, it was the pricing. And and then there's also a cost to the next move, whatever they're going to. If they have something lined up that they have to delay, or maybe they lose a house that they're in contract on that's contingent on the home sale that's not happening. So I've had that situation as well.
That's right.
I just dealt with that Friday.
Oh, you did?
Did you?
Yeah.
So Donnie, I know you have a lot of volume going through your team because you have a massive organization. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in trends and things.
Yeah, I mean, we're mostly seeing the same thing. There's 4,399 single-family homes on the market in MLS this morning. We have sold an average of 1,059 houses per month for the last 30 days. So obviously just a little over 4 months inventory. I don't think that's a buyer's market, but it's definitely not a seller's market. Same thing, I think Jordan and Michael said, if they're priced right, they'll still get multiple offers. I just listed one myself about 8 days ago, went under contract within 36 hours, and it was actually $1,000 more than the exact same floor plan right down the road that sold a couple months ago. So our prices are holding pretty steady, especially below like 300,000, right? Like your entry level price ranges are always the easiest houses to sell. As you go up, that can change some. Of course, my COO is on here, and he just personally bought a house this weekend that's more like the $700,000 range, and it had multiple offers because it was priced well and it was a really nice house. It makes a big difference when people actually put the work into getting their house ready to show in this market. And then it makes a big difference that we plan right from the beginning to set them up for success. So the way I explain it to people, my agents, is there's always a challenge in real estate, and every year that challenge is going to change. And it's the same way in every business, right? When I was in the restaurant business, it was no different.
Right.
When I was a police officer, guess what? It really wasn't that different. There was something new coming up all the time, right? So it's kind of the same type of thing. And I think you just have to know what our market is this year and what you're getting into. Study your market all the time. And then when you are talking to a client, it really starts from the very beginning, right? It starts from that first phone call, making sure you're asking the right questions, pre-qualifying the right way to build rapport with them, show them you're actually interested in that house. Because what you've got to do is build the trust right from the beginning. So that when you are going in there and saying, hey, you know what, the market's not the same as what you've been hearing about. There are fewer buyers, there are more houses. Therefore, we've got to be positioned in a way to beat out all of our competition. Now, do you trust me to position you that way? Obviously, you don't typically say those words. You might have to, but you don't really have to. But my whole goal is to start from the very beginning so that I am positioning in a way that they trust me enough when I get there, and educate them on the market that they believe me and know that I'm the right person to get it done.
Very cool. Yeah, and I've been telling agents forever that our job is to educate the buyers and the sellers of the current market situation. and it changes constantly. So you have to be prepared to educate them on where the market is and to help them with their ultimate goal of whatever that is, to either buying or selling or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
It's like Donnie was saying that building trust with the seller is like the foundation, seller and buyers, actually all of them, because they're gonna listen to your expertise. They're gonna guide you. They're going to do exactly how you guided them to be. And all with all that efforts doesn't mean that they will do it. You know what I mean? But all those stuff will help. Am I wrong, Donnie? Donnie, and that's what Donnie
No,
and
that's it. Like and I will say, I think that is way more important than presentation as far as like the latest gadget and
yes.
having this perfect presentation. I listed 109 houses in 2018 with manila folders, right?
Yes.
Now, of course, we have nice logo folders now, but literally listed yes, with those because they were the cheapest thing I could get at Walmart in bulk, right? And I got that a long time ago. I don't remember which coach it was from, but if you go to a dentist and your tooth hurts, you don't examine the tools before you let him work in your mouth. You go, oh, I feel comfortable that you're competent enough to get me out of this pain. Do what you need to do. It's the same thing. If we show them that we're competent and have their best interest in mind and build the right rapport, they're not even going to ask about the tools. The tools aren't going to matter, but it all starts from us being prepared right from the very beginning and having the right conversations.
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely. And numbers and knowing the market and expertise on what's going on in their hyper local area, all that's going to help with your credibility.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, and just piggybacking on that, one thing that I always try to do is talk to them about the hyper-focused market there in their neighborhood, in the immediate area where there are competitive listings, and I look at how many there are. I look at the absorption rate and really talk to them about, hey, we need to align our pricing so that your house is number one or number two on the list, not number three or number four, because if only two houses in your neighborhood are selling on average every month, we want it to be yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really, we can look at a lot of different numbers, we can justify a lot of different things, but ultimately, if you want your house to be at the top of that list, that's what we really need to explore that scenario. So that's a good strategy, I think, just in general. Look at how many houses are for sale that are going to be competitive listings. Look at the pricing of those houses, and then talk to them about where those prices are aligned. Good chance that one or two of them have overpriced dramatically, especially in this market. So we don't want to follow them and say, well, their house next door. I just had this conversation. The neighbor's house next door is listed at this, and I'm like, it is. You're right, but it's been on the market for how long, and it's still sitting there. Do you want to sell yours, or do you want to have it listed for as long as we can? So that's good kind of conversation to have with them, and that helps build some trust as well. Yeah, so that's. I have another scenario that I just worked through that might be helpful for people as well.
Sure.
In terms of pricing strategy and just in this market that we're working with. So a lot of people that did just buy their house not too long ago, they don't have a lot of equity. So I always talk to them, early on, like, get an idea of what their payoff is. So we have an idea what that net is going to look like, and the number that ultimately is going to keep them from having to go in the negative or bring money to closing, which I think Donnie mentioned, or maybe it was Jordan, I can't remember now, but at any rate, so I had a client that was in that situation where they gave me their payoff, and I kind of worked all the numbers up. We talked about a list price that was going to work, and it was still within kind of our current market value range. It was kind of on the high side. So I explained all that to them. We got an offer that came in. I ran the numbers. I said, here's what it looks like. And then they came back to me and said, oh, you know what, Michael, actually our payoff is 10,000 more than we thought. Which is a big chunk, especially when the margins are so small and they didn't have, the market is what it is. So I'm like, wow, okay, we're going to have to really readjust our thinking here. And we didn't actually end up moving forward with that specific buyer. However, what the scenario was, we had a house in mind that they wanted to move to. They have some urgency to move, and I had them in contract contingent on their home sale, and a lot of specifics that went on. But in general, what I ended up doing was we found a home that they loved that I was able to negotiate for them to get 4% seller concessions back at closing on, which eliminates their buyer side closing costs on that new purchase. So essentially, we worked it to where, hey guys, you're gonna have almost no out of pocket on buying this new home. That's gonna free up 10 to 15 to $20,000 that unfortunately in this situation, but it's gonna allow you to bring that to closing to sell your house at the current market value where we can find a buyer that will work for you to get you to the next move. And they were ecstatic. It doesn't sound like a huge win when somebody's bringing $10,000, $15,000 to close to sell a house, but when they just bought it a couple years ago and they've got a large payoff and it's the only way to get it done, they were over the moon. And they're like, Michael, you're amazing. You're a magician. And I said, I mean, this is the challenge that we deal with. Every client, every transaction is different. So just finding a way to put that puzzle together is huge.
That's awesome. That's really good thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Jordan, what strategy are you using for pricing to get them to price things right?
Well, I mean, I just, no different than anybody else. I just, look at the market and I'm just real with myself about where numbers need to be. I mean, there are occasionally times where I will list a house a little bit higher than where it needs to be because I've got a good understanding from the seller that we will be able to get a price drop. But it just kind of depends. There are some sellers that are very adamant about a certain price and that you almost lose business over it. And so, like, if you can get a reduction later, I'm very aggressive with pricing a house that is a new listing. If I know it's overpriced, I'm trying to get that price drop within the first 2 weeks. Because I mean, if you don't, then it's gonna sit, and yeah, it's for example, I had a house that I did that on in Olive Branch. All the houses were selling like 290, low 300s, and she wanted to list it at 319. I said, fine, we'll list it 319. I know I can make the house look great. We actually listed and got a ton of showings, even at 319, even though it was the highest priced house in the neighborhood with the lowest quality. and got a ton of showings, and then all those showings, buyers were leaving feedback that the house needed some work and they didn't like the buyers weren't going to move forward. I took all that feedback back to the seller and I said, hey, look, we've had like 8 showings in the first week and not a single one of them are bringing an offer. We need to drop the price right now. And that was after the first week. And my other point that I threw in there, I was like, hey, not only do we need a price drop because these 8 buyers are not bringing us an offer, but we're getting close to the school year. And if we don't price now, then those buyers that are trying to settle on something before the school year starts, they're also going to be out of this picture. So we need to drop right now. And we did. I got a nice drop and it just went under contract on Friday. And
Nice.
so,
Nice.
Very cool. Hey, Donnie, what are you seeing in strategies? I know you've been around a long time and you've done a lot of listings. What kind of strategies can be leveraged to get people to price their homes correctly?
Yeah. So like I said before, starting from the beginning, and then I make everything about the market. So it's never about me. It is always, here are the comps. And when I go through my listing presentation and go through comps, I try my best to get them to give me a price. And oftentimes if the pre-qual goes well, I'll kind of have a price in mind that they need. But if you can go through the comps and then say, hey, looking at what the market is telling us, where do you think your house should be priced so that you get all the money off the table that you should be taking with you, but also making sure buyers are excited about your home, and hopefully they give you the price. And then I kind of have multiple steps to where if they don't agree with the price, I don't get into an argument with them, because if you get into an argument over the price, you're going to lose. So first of all, I lay it all out. It's all market based. It is not my opinion or anything like that. When I do my comps, I only do closed. I don't do any pending or buyer or active comps. I know people will disagree with that. They don't want to hear me talk that long to go through 27 comps. Number one, they're going to fall asleep. Number two, if I go by an active or a pending and don't really know the price that it sells for, it could very well throw me off, especially an active. Like if they're on the market 90 days from now, guess what? You get to be on the market 90 days from now with them. So that's not good. So I want to go by closed comps. And one of the reasons why is because I could say, hey, this is what it's closed. This is reality. This is where houses have actually sold. Then if they don't agree with that price and it kind of gets into a little back and forth, I go to the net sheet. Oftentimes, once you show them a net sheet and they realize what they can actually net, they will agree with it. So people don't understand, like, if house is priced appropriately, you don't have to negotiate a ton. The average price, even in today's market, the average house sells for 97 to 98% of list price. So you don't have to negotiate $50,000 off of your house, but a lot of times people don't realize that, they think they do. So a lot of times they will disagree with the price up front. But then when you show them a net sheet and they realize what they're actually going to get for it and realize, oh, they're not going to talk me down 50 grand, then you can get them to agree to your price without arguing with them. So that would be my second time that I basically ask for pricing and try to get them to the right price. The third time, if they still won't agree, is I'll talk about the appraiser. Hey, you know what? Nobody wants to get you this price worse than me. And if anybody can get it for you, it is me with my marketing. And obviously, this is how we do that. But let's say I do get you that price. All the comps are here. What do I tell the appraiser to get them to agree with us? So I put it back on them. Like, it's got to appraise, right? Yeah, we know it's got to appraise. Perfect. Well, you see where the market's selling. You see where you want to be. So what do I tell the appraiser to get him there? Because if anybody can get it done for you, it's me, but I don't know what to tell the appraiser. So I put that back on them, try to get them to think again, like, realistically, what would you tell the appraiser? And try to take the emotion out of it. And, they might be like, well, we're across the street from the best school in town. Cool. All these comps are also. What else you got? Okay. So I try to eliminate those kind of objections about, hey, this is why my house is so perfect, blah, blah, blah. So that's like my third attempt at getting the pricing. If I still can't get the price there, then I'll go through marketing. I normally don't go through marketing. I normally don't have to go through marketing. Again, it's the same thing as the dentist. You don't look at his tools. When you go to get your oil change, you don't inspect the spanner wrench to take the oil filter off, right? You just let them change your oil. Same thing. If you've done an amazing job, I probably only have to go through marketing like 15% of the time nowadays. Now, when I listed 100 houses, I probably had to go through it about 40 to 50%. But nowadays, a lot of SOI and that kind of stuff, people are texting me like, hey, you want to help us sell our house again? It's a little easier. So I seldomly have to go through marketing. But if I have to go through marketing, the only reason I go through marketing is so that I can circle back around to pricing. And I'm using all those little segments to try to get them to my price without them feeling like I'm arguing with them or being offended. So if they go back and forth more than once, I go to the next segment. Then if they go back and forth more than once, I go to the next segment. So that way I get to ask for the right price 4 to 5 different times in one listing presentation without them feeling like I'm trying to beat them up over the price. If they still can't come to the right price after I've tried all those things, then I've got to decide in my mind, is it worth listing it overpriced or is it not? I agree with Jordan. Lord knows I lost listings in the beginning where I'm like, your house is worth $375. Some other realtor would come take it for $400,000. Guess what they did 30 days lower? They lowered it $375 and then it sold 10 days later. And I'm like, they could have just listed with me and they would have been sold 30 days ago. But I was just to take the listing because I listen to coaches that tell you not to. So I learned to take the listing as long as they're reasonable. I have some rules for taking an overpriced listing. If they're a jerk, want me to cut my commission and it's overpriced, that's 3 strikes in your house.
Yep.
Right?
And
If you're nice, and you're reasonable, and your house is nice, then I'm much more likely to take your house at overpriced. When I do that, I still try to get them closer to my price, and I think a lot of people miss this. I think Michael said it earlier about knowing which houses have been reduced. So I've got to get back in the habit now. We haven't had to do it for the last few years, but in the beginning, when I got my license in 2013, people were upside down, kind of like what Michael and them were talking about. So as a new agent, I was walking the door and telling people, hey, pay me 12 grand and you're going to bring $10,000 to the table to close. So I've dealt with that before. So what I started doing back then is I would look up every original price that it originally was listed for on my CMA when I went over comps, and then I would know what price it sold for because I knew 65 to 75% of them took at least one price reduction. So I could say this one listed for this after the market being on the market this long, they lowered this and then they sold 5 days later. This one listed for this after being on the market for this long, they lowered this, they sold 10 days later. So then I could say, you do see how if they would have just listed appropriately to begin with, they could go ahead and get their house sold the first 10 days instead of waiting 40 days and people thinking that they're getting stale on the market or thinking something is wrong with it. One I've been using a lot lately is, hey, being on the market a long time is just like in real estate, it's just like dating in your 40s. The longer you're on the market, the more people think something's wrong with you. That seems to be working really well for
That's
people.
right.
Yeah, people have definitely been going with that. So if I can't get under my price, my next goal is to get them as close to my price as I can or to the next price break. So for instance, going from 399.9 to 389.9 does very little. Is it better? Yes, it's better. Did you get in front of any additional buyers? You did not. No buyers searched to 390. Or if they do, it's like 1% of the buyers. We search in even increments. Ask anybody who knows searching behavior. We search in even increments. Most pre-approvals, by the way, are like 350, 375, 400. You might see an appraisal at 360 or something, but you don't, or a pre-approval, but you don't see a pre-approval for like 363, 927. That just doesn't happen. We do it in even numbers. So I know that if I wanted at 375, or say I wanted at 365, and they wanted at 400, the closer I get them at 375, the better off I am. I want to be within one price reduction of getting them below 375. So if they want 400 and I want 365, I'm going to do everything I can to get them below 385. So even though they don't come to my number, they're not at their number. If I can get them like 384.9, then I know I could probably get one price reduction to get to 375. And then what that's going to do is open up that next group of buyers for me. So even though I may not be at 365, it at least gets me into the same buyer range. And usually activity will pick up. So even if it doesn't sell, activity will pick up with that one price reduction. Once I got the activity, I'm not going to lose them. The time when you lose them is when you don't have the showings because you're so overpriced that there's no activity going on. And then let's face it, half of us weren't honest enough up front. So then we're scared to call them every week and tell them that they're overpriced because we weren't honest enough up front or we weren't accurate enough. I don't do that. I call every week no matter what because I showed them real comps. So even if it's just, hey, I'm working on your house. I haven't forgot about you. I know we didn't have any activity this week, but I want you to know I haven't forgot about you. Because when it comes time for that price reduction, I know if I can get them within 10,000, I'm probably going to get at least one price reduction. And even if that doesn't get them to my price, it's going to get them close enough to the point that I'm in that next group of buyers. So for me, it's kind of a stair-step strategy. This is how I prep for it. This is how I close for the price multiple times in the presentation. If I can't close for my price, how close can I get for it with the first price reduction in mind? And worst case scenario, I hope to get it within one price reduction of being at my price.
That's perfect. And you mentioned something that was kind of interesting is at what point do you not take the listing, right? You have a 3 strikes rule, but I'm curious from Michael and Jordan, have y'all had situations where you don't take the listing or what's your rule on, hey, you know what, this is just too overpriced. I'd rather be the second agent than the first.
I don't necessarily have a strikeout method, like 3 strikes, like a set thing that's in mind like that. But typically if they're very difficult, if they seem like they're very difficult to work with and they're biting back on pricing and commission, I mean, already the commission thing, like if, you know, obviously the commission thing is just, you know, I had that same FISBO I was talking about earlier asked me if I could list for 1.5%. I said no.
Right.
and so you know, it's just yeah, I mean, you know, there's just a certain, you just got to fill them out. You know, the 3 strike rule is definitely something I probably should implement, just to set a set standard, but I do just kind of feel them out and I make a decision based on that. You know what I mean?
And it sounds like you've already got this system, Jordan. You just don't have it quite as clear in your mind because I've been doing it longer. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's your system. It can be a little loose if you want it to be.
Yeah.
There's not
Gut feeling, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
There's nothing here that says you got to do everything the same way anybody on this panel does it.
Right.
We're
Right.
trying
Yeah.
to give you a framework that you can make work for you. So I think you're in good shape.
Oh,
Yeah, and I would say just for me, I don't have a hard and fast rule on it either. I definitely have a certain amount of, you know, feel it out type, you know, I guess, you know, get their feedback. I always try to get as much information prior to that listing appointment. If I can get their payoff, that's huge because it gives me an idea of the numbers. Because a lot of times numbers speak to them, and if I can run some numbers and let them know what the ultimate picture looks like and set them up at the end of the story where they're happy with whatever that is, that's great. I always also try to get them to tell me a number. Hey, if you were putting a sign in your yard today, what would you want to put on it? Because it gives me a gauge of like what they're thinking to what you guys have said. A lot of times they have no idea. A lot of times they really overprice it. If for some chance, like I have one currently that I'm going to go do a listing appointment for, Surprisingly, what the number they gave me is probably lower than where we would actually list, which is awesome. That doesn't happen a lot. But I think for me, I try to set up, hey, there is a current market value range. And I tell the story, where do you want to be on this range? If we're at the top of the range, you want to squeeze every penny. We're going to wait for that one buyer. It could take several months. Do you have that kind of time? Is that what you want to do? Is that the strategy? I try to give them ownership of the strategy and let them feel like they're the one making the decision. But almost, I mean, like 9 or more out of 10 times when I set them up like this, I tell them, hey, if we list at the top here, it could sit, we're going to get the stigma. We're going to have to do a price reduction. How much is your money worth for these several months that we may be waiting for that right buyer? I also tell them, hey, I don't like to price it at the bottom of a current market value unless you're in a huge hurry. So I gain some credibility by saying I try to hit that sweet spot right in the middle where, ideally, we're going to get action. I'd like to get you multiple offers. Maybe we could push it back up towards that higher number that maybe you think, is the number. And at the end of the day, I also, which has worked really well for me, is I set them up. I tell them the market's going to speak to us. We're looking at the current market. Once we hit the market in the first 7 to 10 days, the first 2 full weekends, if we don't have offers or we don't have a ton of showings with some really good feedback, we need to make an adjustment. And I build it in. Sometimes I've written it into my listing agreement. Other times I just get them to agree to it. I say, hey, and I'm not talking about a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 price adjustment. That does nothing kind of to what Donnie said, especially at the price range you're at, depending if you're, right over 400 or right under or whatever. But I tell them it needs to be meaningful and it needs to make an impact on the buyers, because if we're getting buyers through the house, 5, 10, showings, et cetera, and they maybe like it, but they're on the fence, that's what it's going to take. And as soon as when I have done that strategy and I've already had them agree to a, $10, $15, $20,000 price drop in that first 7 to 10 days, the second we do that, I get 2 or 3 offers from people that have already been through the house that are just waiting on that. And everybody's happy. They're like, wow, okay, this is what we expected from that scenario. But that's kind of how I handle it.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, do y'all ever pre-negotiate price reductions at the listing appointment if it's too high? Is that something that happens?
I do, 100%. I don't do it all the time because it doesn't come up, because I'm usually able to get them to get that sweet spot where I really think they should be by just working through the presentation. But for sure, 100% have done it where I've actually built it into the listing agreement. In 7 days, we're going to drop $15,000. In another 7 days, it's another 10,000. And it's on a rare occasion, but don't feel like you can't do it and can't have that conversation, because most of them, if they know, if you've explained everything and you've gone through it, they probably know they're shooting for the moon. Yeah. Right. And so if you give them the option to shoot for the moon, but a realistic plan to actually bring it back down to where it needs to be, most people aren't going to be in a position where they're like, okay, yeah, I want to start here, and no, I'm not going to agree to do some price adjustments. So that's been my experience, and it's worked really well. But just as a quick side note to flip the script there, when you're working with buyers and you're out, this is the same strategy I use to find the sweet spot on these houses that have been overpriced. Is 7 to 10 days overpriced. That's when I'm going in asking for 2, 3, 4% seller concessions, because I know they're about to do that price drop. And if you can hit that sweet spot, because I have a lot of buyers that need seller concessions. They just need them. They have to have them or we're not buying a house. And they're looking at houses that come on the market day one, and they want to put an offer in. We're losing out. It's multiple offers. We need seller concessions. The other offer doesn't. It's a no-win situation. So I say, hey guys, let's target these houses that have been on the market 7, 10, 15, 20, 30 days that have probably been overpriced. And let's hit them with that sweet spot where they're about to do a price adjustment, or at least thinking about it. And we give them a good offer that puts them, in that range of 2, 3% of where they have it listed now. All of a sudden we're in contract and we've beat out, a bunch of other people that maybe didn't need to ask for seller concessions at all.
You know, it's funny because like the online shopping companies have figured this out. If you go online shopping at a retail online store and you put stuff in your cart, but you do not check out,
Yes.
if you wait, they will send you, oh, guess what? We've got a 15% off, a 20% off of anything in your cart. We can kind of leverage that in the real estate world, it sounds like, with this market.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, sir.
awesome, Rob. So what I've always done is, hey, what does a car lot do if a car sits on the market for a long time to get it
Right?
sold? And everybody always says, oh, well, they lower the price. And I'm like, well, real estate is no different. If we're on the market a long time, we're not getting the results. The only two way to get a buyer to buy it is to add value, or the only way to get a buyer to buy it is to add value. There's two ways to do that: make the house better or lower the price. Are you going to do anything to make the house better? And if it's not, then how do we add value? It's lower the price. So
Right, that's
sometimes
right.
framing it that is good. And I might use that analogy of, hey, what do online shoppers do if you don't buy what you put in your cart? Right
That's
now, your
awesome.
house is in people's carts. We might have to send them an email with a discount and let them
That's
know.
right.
So I think that's really good. Automatic price reductions for us, to answer your question, I used to do automatic price reductions in my contract. What I always ran into, unfortunately, was people wouldn't do them when the time came. Oh, I don't really want to go down. So what I would say, and so I kind of got away from it and just hadn't done it in a long time. What I would say, if you are going to do it, put in the listing agreement that you are not going to notify them, that this happens automatically with no consent needed by the seller, something like that. I would
Oh,
also
that's
soften the
gold.
wording. So when it comes up, they don't know it until they see it on Zillow, right? Like it's just done. Because I did this so many times, because when I first heard, I thought that's an amazing idea. And literally 90% of the time, when it came time to do it, they're like, no, I don't want to lower my price now. I'm like, but you agreed to it. Yeah, but I don't want to yet. So now if I did do it, I would put it in there that no reapproval or whatever is needed by the seller for the price to go down.
Love it.
Hey, Donnie, I think we were having a conversation on the phone several weeks ago about this automatic price reduction thing. And I actually went back to one of my sellers that I've had on the market for a really long time. And I took something else too that was also in this call, the Loom thing or whatever, the Loom video recorder. And I took a combination of these two and I made a video using RPR showing comps in the area, and then also used Donnie's price reduction thing. And I went back to a seller and I said, hey, we need to do price reductions. And so I actually sent him like 8 price reductions in an amendment and put the dates on them. And he agreed to it. And so right now we're on a downhill slope with price reductions. And right now it's funny. I looked it up on at least on homes.com. You know, Zillow obviously, you know, it changes, it fluctuates, but homes.com right now shows this listing having over 500 saves because of this aggressive price reductions I've been doing. And I'm like, when is somebody going to make an offer on this property? It's a goofy property though, but anyways, I got 8 price reductions. I've only gone through 2 of them, so I'm hoping I get it sold when this is done.
You'd be surprised how sometimes 5,000 makes a big difference. So I
Right.
remember houses that were listed for 244.9 and had 10 showings with no offers, and then you lower it to 239.9 and it get bid back up to 242. And you're like, why come it didn't sell at 244.9? Sometimes the market's just weird that way.
So have any of you ever used reverse offers where you have a bunch of people come into your listing, they saw the home, they didn't take action, but they said, hey, they liked it, you got feedback that they liked it, da da da. Have you ever used a reverse offer where the seller actually puts an offer together and submits it to the buyer?
I haven't.
Are you talking about having the seller sign the contract line and then sending them? That's pretty genius right there. I've done verbals that way, but I've never actually wrote a physical contract.
You can actually do reverse offers. We used to do it a long time ago as one of the novelty things, and then it kind of got away from it. But if you have some people that are interested in your home, but they haven't pulled the trigger, then you can have the seller, and you could do this right before a price reduction. You could have it at whatever price, and then you could lower your offer and then send it out to them before you do the price reduction, and make the seller send out a contract to the potential buyer and do a reverse offer.
Yeah, I just did one of those recently with that exact same scenario, and it worked. It's huge. And I haven't been doing them regularly, but to your point, like I think that that's a really cool way to re-engage these buyers that have come through the market that are buyers these days. You guys see it too, but especially it seems like as the market shifts, they get more hesitancy. They want to see more houses. They're on the fence a little longer, but right before we're getting ready to do that price adjustment, if like you send out an actual offer, I put it in writing, send it out because I knew these people were like I could tell them based on the feedback they were first time home buyers, but like they were ready to bite. They were on the hook. I just needed to reel them in,
Yeah.
and it worked. I mean, it was almost a similar situation to where, um, you know, I'm going to pivot again, but another thing that I think is relevant is when um, you put an offer in for a buyer and the sellers want to sit on it. They want to get as much time. They got a few more showings. You always hear like we put these deadlines in our offers like, hey, we want a response by X time. In reality, we have little control over that. And at the end of the day, if the buyer is really serious, they just kind of got hold on and wait. And, it's kind of frustrating for us as buyers on the buyer's agent side. Um, if you've got a good idea of where things are and you can go back in and just say, hey, what can we do to make this happen here today and get the seller to make the decision? Can we pay $5,000 towards their seller side closing costs? Like, because the buyer's usually willing to do that stuff, but if you don't give some kind of urgency and get that, get the ball rolling, think creatively outside the box at that precise time, you lose the opportunity. So great option, Rob, to do that and send out a reverse offer. That's huge.
I got one question on that though, Rob. Whenever you're sending a reverse offer and a contract, what do you do about like verifying their pre-approval or proof of funds or whatever? How do you handle
Well,
that?
it's just to get the ball rolling, just to get it started, right? Sometimes you have agents that are not as the buyer agents is not as strong as they need to be, and sometimes the buyer doesn't really know how to negotiate this or that. But what if you put it into an offer? Hey, this is what I'll pay the buyer agent. I got you covered. And then the buyer's agent's going, hey, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to negotiate it, right? And then you got I'll do this for closing costs. I'll do the price here, and you send it all out, and it just starts the negotiations. They go, hey, this is what we're kind of looking for, and I don't have to fight with somebody else. And these people already, it kind of helps move the progress along.
And it makes them feel even more excited about the situation because you've circled back to them and selected them now, as opposed to, and you can frame it that way too. Like, hey, we're about to do this price adjustment, and they don't know. We have 5, 10, 3 other potential buyers that we think are going to be serious about this, but we know how much your folks really like this house and blah blah blah. Buy all the buy-in that you've shared with us. We're going to give them the kind of the first option, the exclusive opportunity to bring this together. And to your point, Jordan, in the contract when you write it, you're writing it reverse, but it's in there. Like you can put, all right, within 3 days, we need to have your pre-approval and verified. So it doesn't have to be with the offer, which is what we all normally do now, but you can put a time frame on it. You know what I mean? So there is a protection there. If you don't get it and they can't get that pre-approval, you're not going to have to move forward, obviously. So
That's pretty cut and dry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any unique situation that you want to ask the experts at all?
Yeah, if you have any questions for these guys, then pop on, raise your hand, open your mic, and feel free to ask your questions.
Yeah.
We love helping out people with unique situations. I get calls all the time of scenarios where people say, what would you do here?
Right.
I'm sure Donnie gets that all the time. When you have volume coming through, there's always one thing I've learned about real estate. It's always something new and interesting and different and crazy going on.
I have a situation. Now this goes for Donnie, Jordan, and Michael. So imagine you have a listing, right? And just like Jordan or Michael earlier, they bought it at like $500,000, right? 3 years ago, and right now the price in the area, is right like 500 or 480. The last home 3 months ago was 480. Okay, and that was 3 months ago, Donnie. And the funny thing, their mortgage is $4,000, and they have to move to another state. And the funny thing is that the relocation, when that person get the listing, what happened? What they say, oh, we cannot price it at this price. We got a price by around 480 to 500. But the seller was like, I can't do that. And then the mortgage is $4,000. But I'm like, well, you're gonna pay $4,000 for the next 4 or 5 months, and that's about $20,000. Well, here's the problem. They're not paying for the mortgage. The relocation company is paying for the mortgage every month. So when you go for a price reduction, you go to the relocation company, they rather pay for the $4,000. It's been 3 months on the market. So what would your solution? Doesn't matter how many of you, whichever one of you go first.
I've
How
never
would
done.
you handle that?
I'm listening. I'm learning and listening on this one.
Oh boy. So I mean, in this situation with that relocation company covering their mortgage for 120 days is normally what they want it listed and sold for. That's usually their time frame of what they'll be willing to cover it. So, wow, that's interesting. I mean, beyond that, they're going to be carrying that. So, is it is it the client that's not wanting to adjust, or is it the relocation company? Normally, relocation will normally give you a range of what you're allowed to list that house for, and then you kind of got to get the thumbs up from the seller as well. But a lot of times I've seen relocation, and I don't know if this is the case with yours. They'll give incentives to the seller to do a reduction in price. In order to entice them to get it sold, because they want to get it sold, they want to get it done as well. So I don't know if that's an option or not, but if it is, that would be what I would try to do. And then I don't know where they're going as well, but if there's a way for you to, if they're buying in another market and you've done a referral or someone else is working with
So
them.
here's what that's my listing. I'm straight up. Rob knew I never take a listing that is, weird like that. But this is my first ever, right? So the funny thing, I like, you guys ruined my freaking record. I'm serious, straight up. I'm like, I never get a listing, like that past 60 days. 60
Yeah.
would be the max. This is the worst like listing I've ever had, right? And that's the truth. So I listed. And they beg me. They say, just hold still. The seller begged me, just hold still, just like, they will budge. The seller come.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, you ruining my record every day that you don't change. So right now it's 87 days on the market. And right now, I mean, literally we're the fourth house. Okay. It's like 495, 509, 512. And we're like, why at 514? And so I told him, like, every day you don't do anything, you ruin my record. I mean, and the thing is, like Carrie Flowers say, we've been telling them that I said, you put at 480, you would have sold it, and then the relocation would have just pay out maybe $20,000. That's all they're gonna pay out. And you pay up your mortgage. And I did the whole plan ahead of time. But they was like, Miss Kim, I promise you it's not me, it's them. So now they try to convince me, just hold tight and waiting for the relocation. To answer your question,
Kim,
Michael.
do you have any communication with the reload company?
No, not at all. They just won't answer.
That's the problem. So if you even have an email, I would put together a proposal that lays out all the numbers of, hey, this is what you're paying in taxes, this is what you're paying in payment. And guess what? The market's going down. So if we do this for 4 months, you're going to spend $20,000 over the next 4 months, and then you're going to lower the price of this and lose the money anyway. I'm trying to look out for your best interest here. Would you consider this price change? Otherwise, we're chasing the market down. You're going to pay the payment for 4 months, and then you're going to lower the price anyway. We've already lost the money, but let's not continue to bleed more good money because we won't make a move. So I would try to put together some kind of proposal and lay out all the numbers. And my thought process there is just hoping that the relocation company person is a bean counter, and that's why they're not wanting to lower the price, because they're like, no, we don't want to lower the price. We'd rather, just pay the payment every month. But maybe they're not looking at it long term, kind of like that renter that's waiting for prices to go down. They spend $20,000 on rent, and then the houses are more expensive anyway, right? Like, how many times do you see that happen? It would be the same thing. So that would be my thought process. It's just a guess. I haven't worked for a relocation company, so it's definitely a guess. But I would try something like that.
Well, it's not, I mean, relocation. The company are relocating the client. They're not they're just a big HVAC company. And then they're paying for the rent on the other side. Because these people can't
Even
buy
better,
it
more
until they
numbers.
sold this thing. So they pay rent here, they pay rent there. And so I say, you gonna cost the money over there? You cost, so you coming out about 7 to 10 grand a month, because I did the calculation. I'm like, now we get this price, we do, and I done that letter a month ago, Donnie. And so we are month 3 right now. I'm gonna do another letter the same, exactly what you said. And that's what I was hoping to make happen a month ago, because I'm like, listen, we're closing to my 60 day, and that 60 day is like, I'm never sold a home that past 60 days. I have to give it up, give it away. And they were freaking out that I may give up on them because they know I'm that good, you know, and that's
It's like that short sale manager that the appraisal comes in a little high and they kill the deal, and then they foreclose and sell for $80,000 less than you had it sold for because they didn't. That's
Oh
what
my
it
gosh,
sounds like.
we saw so many of those back in the day. It's crazy.
That is
I
crazy.
did a short sale several months ago in South Haven, Mississippi, and I had the appraisal come out high. And so of course they made us increase the price on the contract. I am so surprised that one even went through. But yeah, it's funny you say that. So.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
What a call, guys. This is awesome.
Yep. I think, like you said, I think if you just, I would circle back, especially if it's not an actual relocation company, it's just the company that's relocating them, just getting in front of them again and getting the numbers over to them. And I think it's going to hopefully click for them that it makes sense to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
send them everything that you that Donnie were talking about. I'm like, I itemize it, you know. I'm like, you send this to them. No, give them give their email, give that person, the contact person. They're like, they say, hold tight, hold tight. I don't even know what I mean hold tight for. But they were like, you know, I'm like, this time I'm gonna do it actually tomorrow's every Tuesday. That's when, you know, I do the weekly and monthly every time to them. So they know we have 17 showing and no budging. And so they get all the record online and everything. So we did everything right. It's just them right now. And they're leaking money. It seemed like 10 grand a month from both sides.
Oh boy.
Yep. People have money to throw away.
Yeah.
But, you know, so summing up to what Donnie and Michael and Jordan is that build, number one, so some of this, build the relationship first and make sure that we have that foundation, trust with them. And then second is like really communicate that price and that if without that, either bring the value right on it, either improve on the value or improve on the value on price or on the home on price. And those are the two key.
And get price reductions quickly instead of waiting.
Yeah. And get them locked in if you can.
Yeah.
Get them to agree to it. Already talk to them, have it mapped out, and make them automatic. Like Donnie said, that's even more important because someone might agree to them and then they want to hem haul around when it comes time to do it. But I've done it. It's worked really well. And it's just a good way to bridge the gap between maybe where they want to be and where you know it's going to take to actually get that place sold.
Wow.
That's right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, guys. This is great information. The market's constantly changing, so we got to stay on top of it. But love hearing all the new ideas and ways to help agents to grow their business.
Awesome.
Hey.
Well, thank you guys for another awesome Grow Global Mastermind.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Have a week. Win the day. Have a good week.
That's
See you
right.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye, guys.